Okay, hello. Sorry about the wind and highway noise if you can hear that, but we are on our way to the follow-up appointment to make sure that baby girl is growing. And since our last appointment when I was 22 weeks, now I'm 26 weeks, which is so weird.
Crazy.
Her kicks have gotten stronger and more frequent, so I can only assume that she's grown, but today we're checking on that. And she was they said between the 10th and 11th percentile when I was 22 weeks, but they said that the measurements could have been a little off because her head was pressed against the bottom of my uterus. Anyway, so they just want her to be above the 20th, and if she's not, I think we have to keep coming for follow-ups, and if she's below the 10th, we have to go to a specialist from now on. So we're really hoping she's either growing at the same rate or that she's a much higher percentile, but the doctor wasn't concerned, but I'm pretty sure she's just gonna be small. But anyway, we're checking on her today, and this is just gonna be, I think, a little weekend video. I don't know when I'm gonna be able to film, but the Super Bowl is this weekend, and we're having I wouldn't call it a Super Bowl party, but we're having people over for the Super Bowl. And we have a few other things we're doing this weekend, so I wanted to film it. So yeah, I'm 26 weeks, and we get to see baby again. Okay. It is entirely the next day, and I know I'm looking a little rough and pale, but things didn't go as planned at our growth scan. So we go in, and they're doing the scan as normal. It's the tech, so she can't really say anything. And she's measuring the head a million times. She's measuring her limbs a million times. She just rechecked the same thing a lot. They're measuring her head, and it was saying how big her head, based on how big her head was, how far along she should be. But the tech can't say anything, so it's just Zach and I looking at the screen. And then it also says a percentile. And for her head measurements, they were all around 25 weeks and around 10%. And then for her arms and her legs, they were high 24 weeks and under 10%, 5%, 3%, stuff like that. But you can't ask the tech any questions, and you never really know. I'm not a doctor, I'm not an ultrasound tech, I have no idea what I'm looking at. So I was not worried about it. I was the doctor will tell us, but I was so confident that she wasn't under the 10th percentile and that she continued to grow really well because her kicks have been getting stronger, they've become more frequent. And my stomach has grown. I mean, bump check. I look pregnant. I definitely am pregnant. Doctor comes in, and she's just really matter of fact. She's yeah, so you came in for a growth scan to check on her growth, and she, was around the 10th percentile the last time. Well, now she's at the 5th, and she just kept talking. And then she was so she is considered, fetal growth restricted. And I was just she said it so matter of fact. So I was wait, did she mean to say 15th? Did she mean to say 50th? She just said 5th, so casually. And then I was wait. And so she just kept going. She was so you have to come in every week to make sure that the blood flow to the placenta is still good and to make sure that she's still good. And then every 4 weeks you'll come in and we'll do a growth scan to measure her to make sure she's still growing and to see if she maybe made it out of the 10th percentile. Then once she makes it, if and when she makes it out of the 10th percentile, you'll be able to stop coming here weekly and you won't be considered growth restricted anymore. And so I'm just sitting there wait, what? This woman said this in one breath. And so I started to get emotional, but I didn't cry or anything. I was just kind of getting choked up. So I was so she's in the 5th percentile, so she drops. And they're yeah. So I was so she grew since the last time we were here, but not by much or something. And so I'm like still trying to like process this without like fully accepting what it means. Basically, she was like, there's nothing you could have done to cause this. And she was like, there's nothing you really can do. She was like, the only thing I suggest is that you make sure you're getting at least 60 grams of protein a day. That could really help. The baby could go through a growth spurt. Like, she could still make it out of the 10th percentile, you know, if she has a growth spurt, or if me eating more protein in a day helps her, you know. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna absolutely make sure I'm eating at least 60 grams of protein, probably a little bit more each day. And, you know, I was like, can I keep doing like my prenatal yoga and stuff? She was like, oh yes, like you don't have to change like anything you're doing right now. And so, you know, I'm still processing it. I didn't get emotional yet. And then I was like trying to like think of questions I had. And then she was like, are you okay? Like, how are you handling this? And that, you know, when someone asks you if you're okay, you lose it. So I started crying and I was very upset. And so I was like, does this mean I'm considered a high-risk pregnancy? And she's like, yes, it is considered high risk now, because trigger warning, if you've ever experienced infant loss or child loss or pregnancy loss, it does increase my chances of stillbirth. And that is like, when she said that, Zach and I both like had like physical reactions. We were like, because you never expect to hear that. And going into the appointment, as you guys saw in that first clip, like we were so cheerful and like optimistic, and just never expecting to be hearing something like that. Some of the things that can cause it, like health related things, is you have preeclampsia or high blood pressure. She was like, you don't have that. If I smoked or drank during my pregnancy, I have not done that. One of the other things they did during the ultrasound before we talked to the doctor is they just very heavily, and I guess this should have tipped me off because this is what they did the first time at our anatomy scan, they just spent the longest amount of time like looking at the blood flow from my placenta to the baby and like the blood flow from me to the baby. The doctors, like at my anatomy scan, the doctor said it looked great. The baby was just small. And then at this appointment, the doctor said like, it still looks great. She's just small. So they were like, they said like it could be a myriad of things. So they did offer another like amniocentesis, or I don't know if I'm saying that right, but where they essentially take like a giant needle and stick it in your stomach and take the amniotic fluid out to test her actual DNA. We are not doing that. It's just not worth it. Like at the end of the day, like we're gonna carry her to, you know, as long as we can carry her for, and it's not going to change our minds on anything. So we said like, you know, we're not interested in that. And she was like, I just offer it to everyone. But so she said it could be a chromosomal thing. And I asked her, I was like, is there anything in particular that you would be looking for? And she said, well, no, because everything about our baby is healthy. The only thing of concern is that she's small and measuring behind. Everything else, like the blood flow looks great, like her bones look great, her spine looks great, like she's taking practice breaths, like they checked everything that like could lead them to like an answer kind of, and she looks great. And I'm very thankful for that. They just said like, she's small. All of that being said, the percentile and everything like that does not take the parents into account. It takes the general population. I'm only 4'10". I was only 17 inches and like 6-ish pounds when I was born. Zach was 7 pounds 1 ounce when he was born and 21 inches. So he was like a little string bean baby, and I was a small baby. And my mom, like, of course, when I told her everything, she like looked it up, and based on my like weight and height, I was in the 3rd percentile when I was born. So it's like all things logically. There's this one phrase, I don't know if it's an actual phrase or something that Grey's Anatomy came up with, but if you hear hooves or like something like that, probably not a zebra. Like it's probably a horse, you know? Like don't just assume when you hear hooves that's a zebra. It could just be a horse. So all that being said, yes, there could be something chromosomal, something wrong with her. But if all signs are pointing towards she's just a small baby and there's no other reason to be concerned, then there's no other reason to be concerned. But we're of course going to be continuing to go once a week to these appointments and getting the blood flow checked, and you know, every 4 weeks going and getting her growth checked. And I'm gonna start doing the 60 grams of protein a day and do, you know, that's all I can really do. And we had like a breakdown about it yesterday, and we got upset about it and cried about it. But at the end of the day, like, we're really just choosing to believe that she's a small baby. I was a small baby. I'm a small person. And you know, I was reading about it in my What to Expect book, and it said that this can happen with first pregnancies. It can happen with, you just have a genetically smaller baby. But yeah, they have no reason to suspect anything is wrong with her. So that is what we're going with. We are believing that God has a plan no matter what is going on with her. We believe that she is in God's hands and that she's meant for us, whatever that means. You know, we're choosing to believe that everything will be okay. Now, I haven't talked to my OB about this since becoming high risk, but I have an OB appointment in like a week and a half, and I'll talk to her about it. But prior to this appointment, my OB was saying, like, we let you go to 41 weeks. Now that I'm growth restricted, this doctor I saw yesterday, who is not my OB, she's like a perinatal doctor. I don't know if that's what it's called, but she was saying how, okay, she's still measuring small, might need to, deliver at 36 or 37 weeks if she stops growing, or if we have any concerns. And then they were saying, but if everything is okay, like, you could still deliver at 38, 39 weeks. And I want to deliver when she's ready to come out. I don't want to be induced. I want to deliver when she's ready. And of course, if the doctors are like, something is wrong, or like medically you should be induced, I will do it. But I really, like, if everything is okay and she's just small and I'm 38 weeks, I want to keep her in. So I'm really hoping I'm still able to do that. I'm going to ask my actual OB about that when I see her, and I'm going to ask her a bunch of other questions. But yeah, that's the news we got yesterday. We got home, cried, were upset, and then took a nap, and then woke up, and I woke up with a cold. Zach got sick. We saw one of his family members over the weekend, and Zach got sick from that family member. And then I was like, Zach, like, you have to stay away from me. Like, you have to use Lysol, everything. But at the end of the day, we do share a bed. So I did get sick from him. It's just a cold though. It doesn't feel like COVID or anything. It's just like a slight sore throat and like a stuffy nose, which I'm sure you can hear. But it's like on top of everything, now I'm sick. Like on top, like just like I'm not. I need to have a little bit of a pity party. Like, I found all this out yesterday, okay? The last 2 weeks of our lives have been bad, not good. So yeah, on top of everything else, I also have a cold. I'm gonna throw my little pity party for a little bit, and then I'll get over it. Am I gonna catch a break? I don't know. But I'm feeling better about it, and I'm able to talk about it because I'm choosing to believe that she's just a small baby, because we have no other reason to be concerned. And the minute that we have a reason to be concerned, I will be concerned. Yeah, that was our appointment yesterday. I thought I was gonna have like a whole like cute little like weekend vlog, but life had other plans for us, and so yeah, that's what's going on. And now I'm sick, so I sound awful. There's a couple of TikTokers that prior to yesterday I started watching their videos, and they're both pregnant, and both of them have babies that are growth restricted, and one of them is because she has high blood pressure and preeclampsia, and then the other one I think is just because like the baby's just growth restricted and they don't really know why. So anyway, seeing their stories has made me feel less alone and made me feel like more confident that like, hey, if they're okay and their babies are still okay, like the same can be said for mine. So I wanted to share that on here. There are certain things like medically, like we won't be sharing about our daughter like when she's here, and like with other things, but as far as things with the pregnancy, I do feel comfortable sharing this. So I wanted to just share this, see if it reached someone who had growth restriction in their pregnancies or has it now, and just say like, you're not alone and there's nothing you did. And all we can do is eat our protein and go to our doctor's appointments and trust God. And that's what I'm going to be doing, and that's what you should be doing. I wish this was a happier video, because my last video prior to this was also like not the happiest video, because that was right after we got that first set of bad news. And then the second set of bad news, I won't really go into detail on, but basically my company's maternity leave that they offer, is not good and is not fully paid. And I was under the impression that it was, and then they told me it was, and then I looked at the policy on paper and I said, it says 60%. And they were like, oh really? Let me look into that. And then they haven't gotten back to me. So anyway, hopefully after this I'll have some happier vlogs. But anyway, I'm rambling. Thank you guys for watching. I'm sorry this video was more entertaining and it was just kind of like one vlog clip and then a sit down video, but it is what it is. And follow along the journey and hopefully I have good news along the way. Bye.